2009, BMW introduced the S1000RR, whose jaw-dropping performance basically turned the sport bike world on its ear. But for 2013, BMW has released the limited production HP4, the high-performance version of the S1000RR. The HP4's engine and chassis are basically the same as the S1000RR, but it's the HP4's electronics, which are some of the most sophisticated ever fitted to a production sport bike, which make all the difference. The HP4's engine and chassis are the same as the S1000RR. That means that the wheelbase and seat height are the same, the frame and swing arm are identical, even the steering geometry matches the S1000RR's specifications. As mentioned earlier, it's the advanced electronics that really sets the HP4 apart from the S1000RR. For instance, BMW breaks new ground with its dynamic damping control, a semi-active electronic suspension system that automatically changes the suspension damping up to 100 times per second according to your riding conditions. BMW also made changes to the dynamic traction control system. Instead of the S1000RR's traction control system that is dependent upon the riding mode you've selected, the HP4 offers 15 different levels of traction control that can be selected on the fly via a switch on the left handlebar. And finally, BMW instilled revisions to the race ABS system, which now uses settings in the slick mode that were developed in the German Superbike Championship. These revisions enable much better control at the limits of adhesion on the racetrack. BMW is only producing a very limited number of the HP4 models for 2013. In fact, only 400 to 600 are reportedly making their way to the US, and all of them have been spoken for. This means that BMW North America didn't have any HP4s in its test fleet, but due to our relationship with the company, we were able to make a special arrangement that allowed us to test an HP4 before it was delivered to the customer. Because of this special arrangement we were granted by BMW, and because this bike already belongs to a customer, we needed to be extremely careful on how we treated this test bike. In order to properly test the BMW's sophisticated new electronics, we took the HP4 out to a Chuckwalla Valley Raceway in Southern California in order to fully evaluate its performance prowess. As with all Sport Rider road tests, we began with our standard series of acceleration performance testing, which consists of quarter-mile and roll-on acceleration tests. The Top Gear roll-on tests allow us to gauge a motorcycle's mid-range acceleration capabilities, while the quarter mile is an industry-wide benchmark for acceleration and horsepower. In the quarter mile, the HP4 put up a best time of 9.76 seconds at 152.4 miles per hour. Compare that to the 2012 S1000RR with a time of 9.97 seconds at 147.5 miles per hour, a significant difference from the standard model. In our roll-on testing, the HP4 accelerated from 60 to 80 miles per hour in 2.44 seconds, and from 80 to 100 miles per hour in 2.33 seconds. Again, if we compare those numbers to last year's S1000RR, we see roughly a 0.2 of a second difference in both categories, an eternity in terms of acceleration. Now we head out onto the racetrack. This would not only allow us to feel the dynamic damping control in action, but also to see just how much better the race ABS and traction control systems really are. I'm really looking forward to see if the HP4 will live up to the hype.
Okay, we're out here at a very windy, dusty, and very dirty Chuckwalla Valley Raceway out in Desert Center, California on the new 2013 BMW HP4.
Chuckwalla Valley Raceway's fast and flowing layout is a perfect test environment for a bike with the HP4's serious horsepower and sophisticated electronics. After my first lap, it became apparent that since the HP4's engine and chassis are basically the same as an S1000RR, that same arm-stretching acceleration and brick wall brakes are there in spades. This is where the dynamic damping control really shows its benefits. The DDC measures parameters such as throttle, brake, speed, and lean angle to determine how much and when to change suspension damping in order to compensate for weight transfer under braking and acceleration when cornering. Even though I really like the DDC's role in changing the suspension in varying parts of the track, whether you're entering the corner or exiting the corner, it does take a little bit of time to get used to how the front fork feels when you're entering the corner because of the fact that the DDC is changing the damping up to 100 times a second as you're entering the corner. Everything about motorcycle handling is about feel, about how the person feels the suspension and the frame and the chassis working underneath them. It's just a different feel from a standard fork that you kind of have to get used to, but once you get used to it, your confidence level comes back and you can really rail into the corner. The biggest thing that struck me about the HP4 is just that the electronics are sophisticated enough now that they really do help you go faster on the racetrack once you understand and get used to the feeling that they're giving you when they're adjusting the suspension. But the fact that this bike was, because of the fact that we couldn't crash this bike, and the fact also too that it was so dusty out there, we couldn't really press the limits that far. We can only go so far. I like the fact that the new traction control system is adjustable on the fly, but to tell you the truth, with the HP4's acceleration, I don't see how you could spend the time or the concentration to hit the switch on the side of the handlebar to change the settings. At the end of the day, because of the dusty and windy conditions at Chuckwalla Valley Raceway, we were unable to gather lap times and other hard data for the test. But our time spent that day on the HP4 still allowed us to see just how far electronics have come. It really does help you go faster. It really is a tool to help you gain time, entering and exiting the corners. Although I will say probably the biggest benefit, especially for the average street rider, is the fact that the system, you can adjust the base settings so that the system starts off really soft when you're just cruising straight up and down like you're going down the highway. But then as soon as you start going into a set of corners, it will start stiffening up the suspension right at the right time. And that's something that you obviously can't do these days. Just as a concept car, the automobile industry is a sort of showcase for future ideas and technology, the BMW HP4 is a sort of working concept model that the company is using to show what they are planning on implementing into their motorcycles in the future. In order to spur advances in technology, there always has to be a game changer. And the BMW HP4 is that motorcycle. To me, the HP4 represents the future of sport bikes. And I can't wait to see what the other manufacturers do in response.